What's up, YouTube friends? My name is Danny Jones, and welcome to Jones Vibes.
Jones Vibes.
First and foremost, thank you so much for clicking on this video, and if you enjoy it, please go ahead and click that Elvis button, like button, and then go ahead and hit subscribe as well as hit that notification bell. That'll keep you up to date when I make more content. And today we're talking about Baz Luhrmann's newest film, Elvis. And with this movie, I didn't really know what to expect, but all I have to say is just wow. What a film. We went to it over the weekend, and ever since, I've just been really eager to talk about it. But to just kind of jump in, I think that this film is going to be appealing for all audiences. But as a singer-songwriter, this movie connected with me on so many different levels. I felt so connected personally, and seeing firsthand and walking through the life and the triumph and the struggle of Elvis as a musician. It was just something that I've never really done. I haven't really taken the time to research into Elvis as a person and just kind of into his life. Growing up, I had a lot of musical icons, that inspired me, and so watching this young man coming up and he's playing these covers, he's playing B.B. King or he's playing You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. It just reminded me a little bit of myself growing up and playing these cover songs that were maybe outside of the box for me, but it stimulated me creatively. And I don't know, I connected to this movie a lot. And it's so cool that this wasn't just a documentary. This was a feature film by Baz Luhrmann. And if you're not familiar with him, that's okay, but he has made some absolute hits. Like if you've seen Moulin Rouge or Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, young Leo, just killing it. Kind of literally, because he takes that poison. But he has a really distinct visual style, and so then that mixed with his music choices always make for a crazy time. And I won't say all the time, but sometimes he can capture that real movie magic. The magic that makes you really feel something. And I think he did just that with this movie. And he had a lot of help, because the two main stars for this literally melted into their roles. It blew my mind. It's so rare for me that I'm watching a movie and I just kind of forget who the actor is that I'm watching. But I was just blown away. Austin Butler, he plays Elvis Presley. And this is like his first big starring role. I had seen him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but wow. I don't know. I'm thinking Best Actor nom, at least for this. I've already heard some stories and watched a few interviews about how his experience kind of mirrored that of Elvis, and it helped his performance a lot. It was his first time kind of going through a lot of these things and being on that stage, and so he kind of used that to fuel his performance. And I don't know. Whatever he did, it was dope. But next, we have somebody that I haven't talked about on my channel yet, but it's about time because there's a snake in my boot. Tom Hanks, one of the greatest actors of all time. And I mentioned, actors disappearing into roles, and I truly think that Tom Hanks is the greatest actor in Hollywood at this. Every single time I see him in a movie, I don't see Tom Hanks. I see Forrest Gump. I see Captain Miller. I see Colonel Tom Parker. Also, side note, it also is really funny how in Forrest Gump he taught Elvis his moves, kind of a funny thing there. But watching his performance, as always, was just incredible. And I also do want to shout out Olivia DeJonge, who plays Priscilla Presley. She wasn't in the movie too much, but when she was great. But moving on, I basically just want to talk about the movie of Elvis and some things that stuck out to me. One of the most interesting things was watching him grow as an artist throughout the film. Seeing and showcasing how the women in the audience would react to him was really something. I bet it was just insane, because Beatlemania, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I believe, it was after this, and this was just the beginning of it all. I mean, there were people calling for him to be arrested just for dancing. It's crazy, and he made so many waves and just pioneered the way for where we are now. There are so many creative people out there, artists, that now have the freedom to create because of people like Elvis. And it also kind of showcased something I'm familiar with as well, the tale as old as time. And, This was sort of the original version of it. I'm talking about the relationship between management and artists. Artists can be viewed as a lucrative business opportunity. They can be viewed with a price tag on them. And people can be blinded by that opportunity. And most of the time, the artist just wants to create. They just want to do what they love. That's why they're there. And it's so easy to be naive when you're being offered the world, when it's all sitting there just right in front of you. And with that being said, there are some great managers out there and great agents out there. This story, unfortunately, just shows a lot of the negative aspects, but it is really interesting because Tom Parker does kind of walk that line. He has mixed motives, and sometimes it feels like he's coming from a pretty genuine place. Maybe he did care and appreciate the talent that Elvis had. But as time went on, the song and dance ended up resulting in one of the most beautiful and once-in-a-generation talents being locked in a cage. It's absolutely wild and sad that this is what happened to Elvis Presley. Yet, even in those conditions, he still managed to, like I said, pave the way and become one of the biggest sensations that the world had and has ever seen. Times have changed, but he's still so iconic. And Boz does such a good job at placing you back in this time. And he also added some modern-day hip-hop to the soundtrack, as well as modern-day rock and roll, which made it accessible for a modern viewer. It was just brilliant. And Elvis, he played the blues, and he mixed that with rock and roll, which really hadn't been seen. Bridging two cultures together with music and with love and with passion. And that kind of leads into this political aspect to the film. It was really, really well done. We need stories like this to remind us of the past. Our modern world has had its handful of moments, but for people back then, they lived through Dr. King getting shot. They lived through the president, JFK, getting shot. They also lived through World War II, and then later Vietnam. And then comes this iconic man who was looked at as a musician, but he could make a difference just with his music. That line when he says, "This has everything to do with us," as well as, I'm paraphrasing, but if you don't have words, just sing. And that's just beautiful. As a singer-songwriter, that hits home for me. There's been so many times, even just in the last few years, that I felt like I have a lot of things to say, but I don't know how to say it. And so I've just turned to my guitar. I've turned to song. And I think that's a beautiful thing for people to do. You don't have to be an artist to open up a journal and just start writing, or buy a paintbrush and just start painting on a canvas. Art is such a beautiful thing, and it does have the power to change the world. But anyway, yeah, if you saw the movie, you kind of know how the story goes, or if you just know about Elvis's life, and it was hard to see the king, go through such a hard time and get to such a dark place. And also the emotion of knowing that his wife, who left him in the film, but she still carries the last name Presley, and his daughter, they're still around. I've heard, and I'm pretty positive about this, that they gave their stamp of approval to this movie, which I'm sure means a ton to Baz Luhrmann, as well as to Austin Butler. The fact that they were able to achieve and carry on the spirit of Elvis is phenomenal in itself. He made a big difference in his life, and he spoke the only way that he knew how. He also starred in a few movies, and he basically is Las Vegas. Like, when you think of Las Vegas, I always think of him. He's Elvis. And all the Elvis impersonators walking around with the sideburns, And I gotta say, this movie was terrific. If you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest going and checking it out. I loved it, and I'm really happy to have gained some insight into the icon that was Elvis Presley. But I'd love to know what you thought about it, and also what you think of Elvis. Do you like his music, or at least, the cover songs that he's sang? For our first dance, my wife and I actually danced to Unchained Melody at our wedding. So hearing that in the movie was very sweet. But anyway, yeah, please let me know down in the comments what you think. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and click that like button for me. That helps me get seen by more people just like you, as well as hit subscribe. I would love to have you be a part of this Jones Vibes community. I'm also on social media at Jones Vibes Only. And yeah, this was Elvis. As always, I hope you all are safe, happy, and healthy, and I will see you next time.